Hello, I'm Michael Limberakis, artisan and owner of World Glass Stained Glass. We're located here on the Chelsea waterfront, just a stone's throw from historic Boston Harbor. Today I want to share with you of a new project that we're putting in an old Victorian home right here in Chelsea. The project is a good size, it's intricate, and I'd love to share with you the details. So if you'd like, come join me inside the studio and I'll show you all the ropes. Thanks for joining us in the World Glass studio. World Glass has been in business for over 20 years, and we design and create new custom stained glass for residential, commercial. We do some church work as well. And again, like I told you, I want to show you about a wonderful project that we're doing today for a local Victorian home here in Chelsea. And the project is a new 36-inch round window which is going to complement 3 existing turret panels, and I would like to go ahead and show you that photograph. Well, here's a picture of the Victorian home that I was telling you about. And as you notice, there's several areas of stained glass. World Glass was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to restore and repair many of these windows, and we're actually not finished yet. And in the meanwhile, we're actually adding, like I said, the new window to complement these turret windows right here. There's actually a third one on the other side that you cannot see. However, the round window is complementing these 3 on a wall just behind this panel over here. And as you can tell on my lower photograph, this is a repair and restoration in progress. A little bit tricky with the curved panels. As you can tell, this frame had to be made of the exact arc of the sash, and that's very important in putting the windows back together. Of course, once they're cemented, they become very rigid and weather tight, and they need to be exact when you put them back in the sashes. Otherwise, you could have cracking. Designing a new stained glass window can be a lot of fun. The inspiration can come from anything from oriental carpeting, wallpaper designs, a wooden relief in your home, and the opportunities are just endless. In this particular case, for the new panel that we're creating, I'm taking a lot of the influence from the turret panels. And in this case, you can tell that there's beautiful blue ribbon that flows from panel to panel, and we've incorporated it into the lower circle. Also, the clear red and white ripple glass is reaching upward, and in the circle I've got it, of course, reaching downward and upward, along with the two-toned root beer colored glass, which is also rippled. It's got a beautiful texture to it. And in the original cartoon here, I'm going to show you in a minute, we actually added a little bit more detail than usual. Now, this watercolor is just to show the client color placement in the window and the possibilities of what it may look like when it's finished. In every single instance I've done a watercolor, the real window is so much more vivid and beautiful with the colors and light and texture. The clients are always blown away, and it's a wonderful thing. Okay, so what we have here is the cartoon. The cartoon is a second drawing, and the first drawing is being used right now to actually build the window on the pieces of glass that I've already cut. And again, these black lines represent the lead lines, where the lead will wrap around each piece of glass. And what I want to show you at this point is how to cut the glass. And what you do is you take the piece of glass that you're using with a texture side facing downward, and you lay it over the cartoon where you're going to cut, and you hold it down with one hand, and you want to use the cutter pretty much upward on the glass, almost 90 degrees. And you make a very light score line staying inside those lead lines. You can just hear it scoring the glass as I arc my arm around to get that exact curve. This particular cutter is a carbide tipped. It has an oil reservoir which lubricates the cutting wheel, gives it much longer life. And we get one more cut here. If you're new at this, I would suggest making one cut at a time. When you become more proficient, you can go ahead, and that broke perfectly for me. When you become more proficient, you can do 2 or 3 cuts at a time, and voila, fits right inside the line, and now it's ready to wrap with lead as soon as you cut the other pieces. I've been doing a lot of cutting in the last couple of days to get to this point, and the window is coming together very nicely. The process I want to show you today is the leading. Before we get to that, I want to go ahead and show you the other details that I added in from the watercolor cartoon. If you remember, there was only some of the root beer glass cut, but I actually added a few extra pieces on each side just to help fill it in and give it more life and more vitality. It's going to be a beautiful piece, and next I'd like to show you the leading process as well. The leading process is one of my favorite parts of putting together a stained glass window. And again, the lead, it has that H shape going on, so the glass is inserted on either side, and the way this works, the lead is soft and flexible. And so in order to make the lead take your shape that you need, basically it's just holding it with finger strength, and you actually can bend it with your thumb and your forefinger. So what I'm going to do for this particular piece right here, which is almost like a reverse S-curve, is start by bending the lead and getting it as close as I can, which looks very good right there for the first part of the curve. And then the second part, I'm going to take it and just, like I said, reverse it right over. And before I make any cuts, I'm going to make sure that it's exactly where I want it, and it looks very, very good. So in other words, after I cut it, it'll just insert right in, and I will be able to insert the other piece of glass. I always use a scribe of some kind to denote where I'd like to make my cut line. So we do that first. Take my snippers and make the cut, and then kind of put it in place where we think we want it, right about there. And when I make this next cut, I'm going to allow for the second piece of lead, which is going to run along this channel right here, to overlap just a hair, so they make a very nice tight joint for soldering. There's my second cut line, and this is my finished piece right here that I already had done. And that looks very nice. And what's going to happen at this point is this new line that's going to wrap around will connect just perfectly and make for a very tight solder joint. Get that in there just about like that. And this is the process for leading, and it can be intricate and definitely time consuming, but it's what I love to do, and it looks great. And I will now show you some soldering techniques. Okay, I've moved the window around to show you the soldering process, and what we're doing when we solder, we're actually joining each of these lead joints together with heat and a little bit of flux and also solder. And the flux helps the solder flow, and I will show you exactly how this works. We have a nice hot soldering iron, not too hot because it may melt the lead, so we kind of know where our perfect medium is here when you've been working with this for a while. I always clean off the soldering tip, and what we do is put the soldering iron on the joint with the solder. I want to make sure you get enough solder on there. My iron's a little bit warm right now, but it's looking good. And this is the soldering process. The entire panel will be soldered. When it's done, we'll be able to flip the window. It'll have much more stability at that point. We can flip the window and solder all the other joints on the other side. And at that point, we're going to be ready for the cementing process. There are 6 or 7 solder joints. For all practical purposes, let's say that this window is completely soldered on both sides. The next step is the cementing process. The cement gets brushed with a pretty vigorous brush stroke, back and forth, up and down, all different angles, to make sure that we get and fill in all the little spaces around that little glass space that I showed you earlier in the lead channel. And when this cures and dries, this makes the panel weather tight and also very rigid. And that is the last process before we add our support bar, which is next. In designing this window, we decided that the support bar would be a cross, which will actually fill both spaces up and down. I made this special and had it welded, and it's going to actually sit right about here and here on the opposite side of this window. The way that this gets attached is by, I will actually solder copper ties, copper wire to the other side, and these copper ties will reach up, grab around the support bar, and they get tied in a special knot fashion. And we do this in various locations, and that will add much strength and longevity to this window, and again help give it the 125 years of life that it deserves. And that is the end of the process. At this point, the window is going to be ready for installation to the frame, and then installation into the site. Welcome back to the last portion of this video. This is the time where we're going to install the 36-inch round Victorian stained glass panel into its final place. And this house behind me was built in 1896. The owner was a C. Henry Kimball, who was an inventor, and he invented the first heated railroad car in the United States. This building has survived several decades of severe winter nor'easters and summer hurricanes. This also means that there's been a lot of TLC introduced by the owners to bring this back to the current pristine condition which it's in today. Some of the work has included slate roof work, also siding, which has brought them to meticulous painting and color detail, very common to the Victorian era. And also it's included us doing the stained glass work and repair and restoration. We've done several restorations of the stained glass windows in this house. We're not finished yet, but we're taking a break to add the new window into its location, and I'd like to show you more of that in just a minute. Last time we were in the studio, we were talking about the support bars, and what I've created here is a single support bar that has been welded into a cross, and each end of the cross has what we call a copper shoe that is actually screwed into the frame and keeps the window very rigid. We also have the wooden stops along this radius, and it's all screwed every couple of inches, holding the window up against the frame, again eliminating any movement at all. And then the very last part of the support process is the copper ties that are attached, soldered to the back of the window, reach up and around the support bar, and they're actually twisted and then bent over. And this support bar now is actually going to give this window probably 100-125 years worth of life, which is the actual life expectancy of a stained glass window. Let's lift the window in place and see how we're doing.
Oh yeah, that's true. You're going to have to step back and say when it's straight up and down, right? You're going to do that by eyeball.
Sides forward. I have to say, Gary, I just think it looks like it's been here since the rest of it's been here.
That was the plan.
That was the plan.
Right.
And that blue glass, that ribbon, I'm so glad you changed that color.
I am too. As soon as you said it,
that was
I
a last
stepped
minute
back.
thing.
I'll tell you. I think that was a good call.
Wow.
Because there's a lot more of that showing in that. Amazing. Changes the whole place.
Wow.
So I just wanted to say that I'm extremely happy with the results of this round window that was a project of Michael's that he took on about 9 months ago, and the goal was to try to get it to appear as close as he could to the windows that were installed over 120 years ago or somewhere around there. And I must admit, now that I've seen it installed after all of his hard work, that I'm simply amazed at how much it does look like it was made to go with the windows in the turret. And I am extremely excited and thankful and happy with the result that Michael's been able to do with this work. So I certainly appreciate it. And as I said, it's the crowning jewel, I think, of what he's done with us so far, as he was the one that rebuilt the ones in the turret some 4 or 5 years ago. And I think it worked out well. So thank you, Michael.
I hope you've learned a little bit about the stained glass process, and I hope you're as happy as we are with the outcome of this project. If you'd like to see more of our work, you may see it at worldglassarts.com. Thank you.